Ramanujan for G is now available on the Google Play Store. Try it out for free.
Good morning, students. So we have started in our last class the molar conductivity. And what conductivity, that we know what is conductivity. Conductivity of an is a conductance of an electrolyte solution which has a volume of 1 cc, 1 cubic centimeter. And that is what we have seen. The actually conductivity is equal to conductance is equal to conductivity into A by L, that formula that we have seen last time. A is the area of cross section, L is the uh, separation between two electrodes. So that way we see if A is unit 1 square centimeter and L is 1. So what we see, the conductivity is equal to conductance G. So conductivity kappa is equal to G, and that is what its definition came. The molar conductivity then we saw, and what we saw, that the molar conductivity is the conductivity of 1 mole of electrolyte solution, whatever the volume it can have, but that volume should contain 1 mole of electrolyte. This is how the molar conductivity is defined. And so this formula we saw, the lambda, it is represented in lambda m. So kappa divided by C. Kappa is what? Conductivity, and conductivity means conductance of 1 cc, 1 unit volume of electrolyte solution divided by concentration of the electrolyte. And this formula that we have seen, and we also saw how one can derive this formula. And what is important point that we have seen, there is a kappa, the unit of this. So if unit kappa is in Simon per meter, then and concentration mole per meter cube, then the unit of lambda m could be Simon meter square per mole. And so this formula we use directly. If we take unit in the same unit of length on the, which could be the length of unit of length or distance that we consider, and with that we can also find out the unit of volume, because unit of volume will be length into breadth, usually length into unit of length into length into length. So it will be meter cube or centimeter cube or something. However, and similarly, if you take the unit of kappa in Simon per centimeter and the unit of this concentration in mole per centimeter cube, then you get this Simon centimeters per mole as the unit of molar conductivity. However, what is important point that is to be noted here is, usually in chemistry, wherever you have gone, you have seen, we don't show concentration in terms of mole per meter cube or mole per centimeter cube. We usually show concentration in terms of molarity, mole per liter, or maybe the molality and other concentration terms we use. And molality is what? The concentration of the number of moles per unit mass of, or the 1 kg of the solvent dissolved in 1 kg of solvent, that is molality. And so, but we see, so we should have a formula where we can use molarity in terms of mole per liter, and so that with that we can find out lambda m of the molar conductivity. And so molar conductivity should be, so if molar conductivity is represented in terms the unit Simon centimeter square per mole, and molarity if we take consider into mole per liter, then we have to use this formula. And how this formula comes, that derivation is here, I have shown here. So it is nothing but 1000 kappa divided by m. This 1000 also has a unit, and this 1000 has a unit of centimeter cube per liter. So the centimeter cube per liter is the unit of this 1000. Kappa is the unit of uh, anyway, the unit of conductivity, and that unit here we consider in Simon per centimeter. So kappa is in Simon per centimeter, you can see here, and molarity in mole per liter. So if that is there, so means kappa, again kappa, the conductivity in Simon per centimeter, and molarity if is given in mole per liter, means the concentration in terms of molarity mole per liter, then we can use this formula. So the molar conductivity will be equal to 1000 times of kappa divided by m, or 1000 times of conductivity divided by m, where m is the molarity of the solution. And some other things that we have seen. And now later on what we saw, that the kappa, it's what is the conductivity, the conductance of unit volume or 1 cc volume of electrolyte solution. And suppose the electrolyte solution, V volume of electrolyte solution contains 1 mole of 1 mole of that electrolyte. So 1 cc conductivity of 1 cc is kappa, then conductivity of VCC will be equal to kappa into V, and this V is the volume of electrolyte solution in cubic centimeter cc, which contains 1 mole of electrolyte solution, and that is how what we get lambda or lambda m. You can represent as kappa into V, this formula, and this V is what? The V is the volume of an electrolyte solution which contains 1, and this volume, unit of this volume is centimeter cube, cubic centimeter cc. And then kappa is there, and that formula later on we have also seen this. That this was what we have already derived earlier. And then we show the conductance of electrolytes depends on 3 major factors, and those major factors are very important for us to understand chemistry. Some very important chemistry. That is why I am again revising some major usual concepts. And what is that? The nature of electrolyte. And nature of electrolyte, that we have seen nature of electrolyte means whether it is a strong electrolyte or weak electrolyte. A strong electrolyte dissociates completely into water on the aqueous solution, and weak electrolytes dissociates partially. So only certain molecules, a few number of molecules will be dissociated into corresponding ions if the electrolyte is a weak electrolyte. And what other nature means, what we see also that on dissociation, what type of ions this electrolyte will form, whether it will have unipositive ion or dipositive ion or dipositive cation or dipositive anion, unipositive anion, what kind of anions or cations it will be forming. Based on that also, that is also a nature of electrolyte. So based on the nature of electrolyte, we will see whether what will be the charge on the cations and anions that will be obtained after the separation or after the dissociation of the electrolyte. And then later on that we have seen the concentration of the solution. And the concentration of the solution we also saw it is very important, and what we have seen there just briefly, that the concentration of solution, if you decrease the concentration, means if you dilute the solution or decrease the concentration of the solution, what we see, we saw that the molar conductance always increases, the molar conductivity increases. However, the conductivity that we have defined for the unit volume, it decreases. And why it decreases? That we have seen, what I have said, that the number of ions per cc volume decreases. So number of ions per cubic centimeter volume of the solution decreases. So the number of ions are less. So less number of ions will be moving towards cathode and electrode, positive and negative electrode, particularly not cathode, anode, we may not say until unless we define it. So towards the positive and a negative electrode. So number of ions that are moving, that are mobilizing there into the solution, if that is less, so the conductance will be less, or the conductive for that solution, and the conductivity was conductance of 1 cc of the solution, and the number of ions per cc decreases, so the conductivity of any electrolyte solution decreases on dilution. However, what we see that the dissociation, the number of ions on dilution increases, the dissociated ions increases. And how it increases, particularly what is very confusing for a strong electrolyte, because what we consider a strong electrolyte dissociates almost 100% into the aqueous solution, and if it dissociates 100% into aqueous solution, how come on dilution number of ions will increase? Because the number of ions with all the ions, all the molecules or the units have already been dissociated, and we see the ions. And the reason is that in the concentrated solution of a strong electrolyte, what we see, although all the ions are separated and we see some water molecules surrounding all the ions, however, if the concentration of the electrolyte is high, we see somewhere formation of ion pairs. And there are many ion pairs that are formed if the number of ion pairs increases as you increase the concentration of the solution. Increasing the concentration, I am saying, then ion pairs will increase. And as you decrease the concentration, the number of ion pairs will decrease. And what are the ion pairs that I described last time? And again, this is an important point, so I am again going to explain it. So all the ions are there. This is the separated ion, this is separated ion, this is separated one, this is separated one. This is the K plus and Cl minus only ions we have seen. However, we also see where the this ionic boundary of Cl minus ion and K plus ion, somewhere they are not surrounded by enough number of water molecules so that these ions will be totally separated or will be away from the influence, electrostatic influence of each other. So these ions, their boundaries are touching, so they are forming ion pairs. Although they are hydrated to a certain extent, both the ions are hydrated to a certain extent, and that you can see in these figures, in this figure, these two places. But they are formation and they are not free from each other. They are still a kind of pair, ion pair, and these pairs will not contribute to conductivity. So as you increase the dilution, so number of water molecules or dilution increasing, so this hydration of these ions increases. So hydration of ions increases means enough number of water molecules will be coming and sitting between them and maybe surrounding them. These two ions and these two ions will be separated. So they will be almost free from each other's influence. And so what then we can see the number of free ions are available and number of free ions that are available, and that we define as the activity. So what we see, even the concentrated solution of a strong electrolyte, their activity is not equal to 1. So we do not say higher concentration of electrolyte solution. We do not directly take concentration if the concentration is high, even though the electrolyte is a strong electrolyte. We look at the activity, and that activity is why it is defined because the ion pairs are formed into the solution. But if the solution is enough diluted at such, or the dilute solution of the strong electrolyte, what we see, all the ion pairs are broken, and all the ion pairs are broken. So whatever the concentration of the electrolyte is there, you can find that concentration will be equal to the activity of that solution. And so that is how this concept is. And in the case of weak electrolyte, that I have not explained earlier well, and that is what we are going to. The weak electrolyte how the number of ions increases. The strong electrolyte, we can see the number of ions increases because of the break in the ion pair. These ion pairs are broken on dilution, so the number of ions increases on dilution of a strong electrolyte solution. The weak electrolyte solution, what we see, the dissociation increases. There itself the problem was dissociation. In the case of a strong electrolyte, dissociation was not the problem. But in the case of dilute solution, and the problem there was formation of ion pairs. In the case of, however, weak electrolyte, the problem is the dissociation or extent of dissociation. The ions are not dissociated, the electrolyte molecules are not dissociated into separate ions, all the molecules. Only few molecules, a very small fraction of molecules will be dissociated. Also, very few, a small number of a very small concentration of ions will be there. And the concentration, I am saying the numbers, you can say the very small number of ions will be there per mole. But once you start diluting the solution, once you dilute the solution or keep diluting it, but you will see the number of ions increases, the dissociation, extent of dissociation of weak electrolyte increases. And why it increases extent of dissociation on dilution, and that to understand that, you just remember the concept from the ionic equilibrium. And if you consider, just for an example, acetic acid and dissociation of acetic acid, and therefore any acid, what we have defined dissociation constant. And the dissociation constant, if you the formula, you remember, dissociation constant of any weak acid is equal to C alpha square divided by 1 minus alpha. Where C is the initial concentration and alpha is the degree of dissociation or extent of dissociation, and how it is defined to 1 mole, what fraction of this electrolyte or the acid is dissociated per mole of this electrolyte is dissociated. So what fraction of 1 mole or each mole or every mole of this electrolyte or acid is dissociation, that is what we call extent or degree of dissociation. And alpha and C I have already said. So C alpha is square divided by 1 minus alpha. If alpha, value of alpha, extent of dissociation or degree of dissociation per molecule is very less, per mole is very less, then what we can consider, alpha 1 minus alpha in the denominator term, alpha we can neglect. So what will be, K will be equal to C alpha square. Now alpha will be equal to root K and the square root of K divided by C. It means alpha degree of dissociation will be dependent on a square root of 1 divided by a square root of concentration. And it means the concentration will be increased, the degree of dissociation will be decreased. It is reciprocal to the square root of concentration. And if the concentration is decreased, means that on the dilution, concentration is decreased, alpha value of alpha will be increasing, and so it will increase. This is one way to understand. Another way to understand is for the, again with the example of acetic acid, what we can consider is the value of K in terms of what we can also calculate is the concentration of H plus ion or H3O plus ions into concentration of acetate ion divided by concentration of acetic acid. This is what the K is also defined for every acid, or for particularly acetic acid, H plus ion into the acetate ion, or maybe you can consider the N is the conjugate base of that acid divided by concentration of acid. If you dilute this concentration, initial concentration C you have taken, and if you have diluted this solution 10 times. So diluting to solution 10 times means you have increased the volume, and so that the volume has become 10 times of the initial volume, and the volume has become that you have diluted, the concentration will then decrease 10 times of the initial concentration, and the concentration of product ions will decrease, both the ions will decrease 10 times. So acetate ion will also decrease 10 times, and concentration of H plus ions or the hydronium ion will also decrease by 10 times. So 10 to the power 1 times concentration H plus ion concentration decrease, 10 into 10 to the power 1 minus 1 times concentration of acetate ion has decreased. And in the denominator we have only acetic acid, concentration of acetic acid, and concentration of acetic acid has also decreased by 10 times, also 10 to the power minus 1 times. So decrease 10 to the power 1 times means concentration has become 10 to the power 1 minus 1 times. If you put all these things, what will you get? The value, the Q, the reaction coefficient, because now you have, after dilution, you have disturbed the equilibrium. Now whatever the value that you obtain, that will not be the equilibrium constant, that will not be K, but we can consider, you can call it Q, reaction coefficient, sorry, equilibrium coefficient, and that coefficient value of Q will be equal to the 10 to the power minus 1 times of K. It means the value of Q is 10 to the power minus 1 times of K, means K divided by 10, and the Q is less than the K equilibrium constant, dissociation constant is also equilibrium constant. The equilibrium constant, value of equilibrium constant has decreased, and value of equilibrium constant has decreased. So according to Le Chatelier's principle reaction, this reversible process will move in the forward direction so that it increases the value of Q to make it equal to K. And if reaction will move into the forward direction, means what? The dissociation of weak acid, the acetic acid, will increase, it will be enhanced, and so more and more ions, H plus ion and CH3O minus ions will be formed, so their concentration will increase and the acetic ion concentration will decrease, and after a certain time what will you see? This, their all the product and the everything that we put there into the reaction coefficient value, H3O plus ion concentration, acetate ion concentration divided by acetic acid concentration, it will become equal to K. And so that reaction will now again reach the equilibrium. On further dilution, the same thing will happen. So what happens if you keep diluting weak acid? The degree of dissociation will keep increasing, and effect of temperature, then we have seen effect of temperature, it increases with temperature. Usually conductance increases with temperature. And why? Because the degree for the weak electrolyte, degree of dissociation increases. For a strong electrolyte, these ion pairs are also broken many because of the temperature, kinetic energy will be more. And for the weak electrolyte, what we see, the dissociation constant, everything is associated with certain barrier, and the barrier for the dissociation of weak acid will be surmountable at higher temperature. More and more molecules, number of effective collisions will increase, and so the dissociation will increase. Now let us look into the variation of conductivity and molar conductivity with concentration. So what we have seen, the both conductivity and molar conductivity change with concentration of the electrolyte. Conductivity always decreases with decrease in concentration of both weak and strong electrolytes that we have just seen, and then last time we have discussed. Conductivity of both strong and weak electrolyte decreases, both of what? Weak and strong electrolyte decreases. What decreases? Conductivity decreases on dilution. However, molar conductivity molar conductivity of both increases. It increases up to a certain extent of dilution, and after that it becomes almost constant. And where the value that where you reach or the keep diluting, you see that after this point dilution is not affecting the molar conductivity of this electrolyte solution. That point that is called the limiting molar concentration, so limiting value. So anyway, the conductivity, so conductivity of solution at a given concentration is conductance of, and why the conductivity that we know, conductance of 1 unit volume of solution kept between two platinum electrodes in the conductivity cell that we have seen with unit area of cross section and a distance of unit length, means the separation of unit length between two electrodes. And this formula that we know, resistance R is equal to resistivity into L by A, where L is the separation between electrodes. In the case of metallic conductor, it is length of that wire, and divided by A. A is what? Area of cross section of the electrodes. In the case of metallic wire, area of cross section of that wire. And that what can we obtain? 1 divided by R, we just interchange, divide everything by 1. So what we get? 1 divided by R is equal to A divided by rho into L. So if you make numerator denominator, numerator something, if you just exchange their position, what will get? 1 divided by R is equal to A divided by rho into L. And so we can separate out 1 divided by rho and A divided by L. 1 divided by rho is what? Kappa, conductivity. We know conductivity is what? Reciprocal of resistivity. And 1 divided by R, conductance. Reciprocal of resistance is conductance. So conductance is equal to kappa, conductivity, into A by L. And this, if A and L are constant, so 1 unit, 1 centimeter square and 1 centimeter respectively, then what? G will become equal to K, and G becomes equal to kappa, not K, kappa, and this kappa is what? Conductivity. So conductivity is equal to conductance. When A and L, A is what? Area of cross section of electrodes, and L is a separation between them if they are unity. So molar conductivity of solution at a given concentration is the conductance of volume. The molar conductivity, however, is defined as what? The conductance of the volume V of the solution containing 1 mole of electrolyte kept between two electrodes. And this formula that we saw last time is lambda m is equal to kappa into V. Now what we see in this formula, that kappa, value of kappa decreases on dilution. However, as you increases the dilution, increasing the dilution, value of kappa decreases. Means the decreasing concentration, increasing dilution. So decreasing concentration, kappa, value of kappa decreases. However, decreasing concentration V, the volume V is the volume which contains 1 mole of electrolyte. So the volume of V increases, and the volume V increases, and that is why that increase in volume V dominates over decrease in kappa. And so what we see, the value of lambda m increases on increasing V or on dilution. So molar conductivity increases with decrease in concentration, because the total volume V of solution containing 1 mole of electrolyte also increases along with the total number of dissociated ions. The total number of dissociated ions per mole of electrolyte is more. Total number of dissociated ions per mole of electrolyte is more. So net conductivity per mole of the electrolyte on dilution increases. And that in this formula you can also consider with the increase in V. So when concentration approaches 0, and that is what, when concentration approaches 0 means very diluted solution we use, the molar conductivity is known as limiting molar conductivity. This is called limiting molar conductivity or molar conductivity at infinite dilution. So the limiting molar conductivity, another term that we also use is the molar conductivity at infinite dilution, and this is represented as this with the symbol lambda naught m. This lambda naught, this naught represents limiting molar conductivity, and m is the molar, and lambda is what? The conductivity that we represent. And if you just, in the case, if you see just see the graph between molar conductivity and the square root of concentration for a strong and weak electrolyte, this kind of graph we obtain. So for the strong electrolyte, if you consider KCl, and if the KCl, the molar conductivity of KCl is plotted against a square root of concentration, KCl concentration, what we see, we obtain a straight line. And on dilution means here you see the higher concentration to lower concentration we are considering, it means we are moving towards what? We are moving towards origin on x-axis, and with that what where the concentration is decreasing. So as the concentration is decreasing, you can see here the molar conductivity of KCl is increasing. However, this what we obtain, this concentration decrease and molar conductivity increase, it is associated with the straight line. There is what we see, there is consistency in increase in the molar conductivity on dilution, and that consistency that we obtain, that we call a straight line we obtain. And a straight line we obtain, so if you obtain a straight line, so we can also write the equation for that straight line. And how will we write the equation of that straight line? We will know what is the general equation of a straight line. Y is equal to mx plus c, where m is what? M is the slope of the straight line and c is the intercept. And how will we obtain intercept? We just extrapolate this graph up to here, so that at what point it meets y-axis, and whatever the points, at what points it meets y-axis, that will be intercept. And the slope, we can obtain slope any two value at y-axis we can take, and the corresponding values at x-axis, and if we just take that ratio, we'll obtain the slope. And so with that, a general equation for this kind of a strong electrolyte that we obtain, and that general equation is lambda m is equal to lambda naught m minus a c raised to the power half. Raised to c raised to the power half means the square root of c. And wherever this meets, this concentration meets the zero concentration, at zero concentration on extrapolation, whatever point it meets the x-axis, and that is very important point, because on infinite dilution means when concentration becomes almost zero, it will be very difficult to measure the conductivity. But if your graph, you are obtaining a straight line graph, you can just extrapolate that straight line up to the zero concentration, and from there you can easily obtain lambda naught m, or the limiting value of molar conductance. So for the strong electrolyte, we can easily obtain molar conductivity at infinite dilution, or the limiting molar conductivity, by extrapolating this straight line graph up to the y-axis, means that from where we can get the intercept, and value of intercept will provide the value of limiting value of molar conductance. And in this equation, you can see here lambda m is equal to lambda m naught minus a c to the power half, where lambda naught m is what? It is intercept. Intercept means the point at y-axis at which this graph just touches the y-axis. So lambda m naught m value, and the slope is what? Minus a. In this case, this is a negative slope we are obtaining, so slope is minus a in this case, and slope we can also obtain. So it is very important to note here that for a strong electrolyte, lambda m increases slowly with dilution, and what we see, lambda m increases slowly with dilution, and that increase in lambda m with dilution is constant. The rate of increase is constant, and rate of increase of lambda m on dilution is constant. That means that we are obtaining a straight line graph. So the value of constant a, that constant which is slope a for a given solvent and a temperature, depends on type of electrolyte. So value of a also depends on solution and the temperature. But what we can usually, in the case of measuring conductivity, other thing, the solvent that we take, the type of solvent that we take is water. So it can keep the solvent constant, the water, and the temperature. Usually we also perform these reactions at room temperature. So if the solvent and the temperature is constant, even though value of a, it depends on the nature of electrolyte. And though this is a constant, a straight line for a particular electrolyte is a straight line, and for that electrolyte is a constant, a straight line, because a straight line, the slope is constant for the electrolyte. And so this, what is the type of electrolyte or the nature of electrolyte, that we define, and that means the charge on the cations and anions produced on dissociation of the electrolyte of the solution in the solution. So this A value of A depends on the type of electrolyte. Means type of electrolyte means what type of cations and anions it will produce after dissociation. Means whether what will be the charge on cations and anions, whether it will be mono cation, there will be only one positive, monopositive cation, dipositive cation, or mononegative, dinegative, trinegative, what type of cations and anions it will be forming. Now for the example, if you consider, and based on that, the type of cations and anions it forms, an electrolyte forms, a strong electrolyte forms on dilution or on dissolution in water. Based on that, we have also defined these electrolytes into different classes, and how it is defined based on the what is the charge on the cations and anions. So NaCl is the mono positive cation, Na plus is monopositive cation, and Cl minus dissociate, Na plus dissociates into NaCl dissociates into Na plus, and Cl minus. Na plus has monopositive charge. So monopositive charge means it has one, and mononegative anion. So monopositive mononegative ion, it is defined as 1 electrolyte, 1 electrolyte. If the CaCl2 we consider, CaCl2 will dissociate into Ca2 plus charge, so calcium ions plus 2 Cl minus ion. Calcium ion has 2 positive, the dipositive charge, plus 2 charge on it, and the chloride ions will have minus 1 charge. So this type of electrolyte, CaCl2 type of electrolyte, is called 2:1 electrolyte, because the cation will have plus 2 charge and anion will have minus 1 charge. So 2 minus 1 electrolyte, or 1 minus 1 electrolyte. Or the MgSO4, if you consider MgSO4 on dissociation, what will it form? It will form Mg2 plus ion and SO4 2 minus ions. So plus 2 minus ions on cations and anions. So this type of electrolyte is called 2 minus 2 electrolyte. Similarly, if we have, suppose for example, K2SO4. If we have K2SO4, potassium sulfate, so it will be 1 or 2 type of electrolyte, because the charge on cation is +1 and anion is -2, so it is 1, 2 or 1 minus 2 electrolyte. So similarly, you can have any number of electrolytes based on that. Mg2PO4 whole, Mg3PO4 whole twice, Mg3PO4 whole twice will means magnesium phosphate will be 2-3 types of electrolytes similarly. Now, if you look at the dissolution of this change in molar conductivity of weak electrolyte, for example, acetic acid, that is given in this graph, and what we see, the molar conductance of acetic acid is also increasing with decrease in dilution. And the square root of concentration is here. So if the square root of concentration is decreasing, means the concentration is also decreasing, and that you know very well. So as the concentration is decreased, concentration decreases, means on dilution, what we see, molar conductivity of weak electrolyte, for example, acetic acid, is also increasing. After a certain time, what we see, this increase is, however, more steep, and it is steeper than the KCl after certain time. After here, what we see, it is more steep, and it is more sharper change that we see here, at particularly at lower concentration in the case of weak electrolytes. And this is the point worth noting here, that we will see a bit later. Again, let us now look into this question. So the molar conductivity of KCl solution at different concentrations at 298 Kelvin are given below. So molar conductivity is given here, and the concentration at different concentration is given here. What we have to do here is to show that a plot between lambda m, this lambda m molar conductivity, and C raised to the power half, means a square root of concentration, is a straight line. So we have to show that the plot between lambda m and a square root of concentration is a straight line. Means this kind of a straight line that we obtained for KCl, this is also KCl. We have to show how it comes to be a straight line, and then based on that straight line, the graph, based on that graph, we have to determine the values of lambda naught m, is the limiting value of molar concentration for KCl, and value of A is what? It is the slope for the KCl of this straight line for the KCl, and which is also A is a constant. Now from the concentration we can get the square root of concentration, and the molar conductivity is anyway given, so we can put those values directly. So the square root of concentration now we have calculated here, that is given in this table, and the corresponding molar conductivity is here on the right hand side. And putting this molar conductivity value on the y-axis and the square root of concentration on the x-axis, we can obtain this kind of graph. This graph is obtained, and you can also do this while plotting this graph. You can do whether you can use the Excel sheet or any other software, or maybe you can use graph paper, and based on those things you can also obtain this graph. And this graph, what we see, is almost nearly a straight line graph, and this graph meets here and at the y-axis, and this graph meets here at y-axis. What we have, only these 4 points, experimental points. We have not calculated or obtained molar conductivity at zero concentration or the infinite dilution, but just by extrapolating this graph here, we have extrapolated this graph up to the zero concentration, and the lambda naught m value we can obtain, and that value will be here, the intercept value of intercept. And this value will come out to be this 149.4, 149.8. So this is up to half, whatever the distance this is half of that. This much is half of this distance from here to here. So it will be around 150 Simon centimeter square per mole, and that will be the value of lambda naught m at zero concentration, or zero concentration square, when the value of a square root of concentration is zero, that will be concentration zero as well, because if C is zero, a square root of C is also zero. So the square root of C is zero. When the square root of C is zero, the value of lambda naught on this graph, on the extrapolating this graph, we obtain is 150.0 Simon centimeter square per mole. And based on that, what can we see? The KCl value of the lambda naught m for the KCl, based on the data that we obtain, is, or the limiting molar conductivity of KCl is 150 Simon centimeter square per mole. And now using this graph, we can also obtain the slope, and that slope will give us the value of constant A. And how will we get that value? We can just take the value on the y-axis from here, 150 minus 0 we can consider, and this concentration we consider, this concentration will be 0. So based this value divided by this value, will obtain value of A, and value of A is what? It is nothing but negative of slope, because slope, the value what we obtain, slope here as minus A. Slope is minus A, so A will be negative of slope, so minus A, so it will become plus A. So slope will be negative, value of A, constant A will be equal to negative of slope. So minus, and slope will get what? This value minus this value divided by this value minus this value, and this is around 0.335. This will 0.0335, and so 0 minus 0.0335, that value will come as a negative, and negative, so it will cancel out. What we get here is now, and this is 0 minus 148, or 148 minus this, and this minus this you can consider. So anyway, what we get value, the negative of the slope we get as a negative slope. The negative slope will be, putting those values, what will we obtain? What will you obtain as 87.46, and the unit on y-axis is Simon centimeter square per mole, and the unit on the x-axis is what? Mole per liter. This here is an error in a square root of mole per liter. So this is the unit. Now based on these things, what similar kind of analysis was done initially for the first time by Kohlraasch. And Kohlraasch, what he did, examined lambda naught m values for a number of strong electrolytes and observed certain regularities. And certain regularities he observed, because he did this kind of analysis for a number of electrolytes. A number of electrolytes he particularly used NaX or KX type of electrolytes, for example, that were here noted here. So he noted that a difference in lambda naught m, the limiting molar conductivity of electrolytes NaX and KX for any X, where X is a halogen atom or halide. In this case, it will be halide. So only X is shown here, so it's halogen. X minus is halide. In this case, it's NH plus X minus, or K plus X minus, so that will be halide. is nearly constant. So what he observed, difference in lambda not m value, lambda limiting molar conductance value, and the difference in case of NaX and Kx is found almost constant. And for example, if you consider this value at 298 Kelvin, so lambda naught m, the limiting molar conductance conductivity of KCl is what? KCl minus limiting molar conductivity of NaCl is equal to what he obtained, limiting molar conductivity of KBr minus limiting molar conductivity of NaBr. And that will be equal to limiting molar conductivity of Ki minus limiting molar conductivity of Nai, which is approximately equal to, all are approximately equal to 23.4 Simon centimeter square per mole. What if you observe these things, these ions very carefully, what this is, what this is, K plus ion, Cl minus ion, this is Na plus ion, Cl minus ion. If the conductivity of this Cl minus ion and Cl minus ion here, if these ions are separated and their conductivity is there, so the conductivity of these ions are not making any difference. So whatever difference the value he obtained, that one can consider it is because of the difference in conductivity of these two ions, which are cations, because anions are same. Similarly, even if you change the anion and keep the same metal, but the changed anion is kept same for both the metals. And it's a KBr. So the K, in the instead of KCl, if you use Br, Cl you use Br, so KBr, NaBr. So this is also 100% ionized conductivity of Br. That will be the same. Then the difference that will be cancelled out. So conductivity is what? K plus and Na plus only we are seeing the difference in the case of limiting molar conductivity of Ki, limiting molar conductivity of Nai. We also see the same kind of thing. It is perhaps because of that we are getting this value. So what he said based on this observation, and another thing, that very important point what he obtained is, if he said that if we just keep the cation same, here what we are saying in these two cases, when while taking the difference we are keeping anion same in all the cases. And if you keep the cation same and change the anion, so NaBr limiting molar conductivity of NaBr minus limiting molar conductivity of NaCl, and then it is equal to, and now the change the cation, keeping the limiting molar conductivity of KBr, but in these two cases cation is same, minus limiting molar conductivity of KCl is what he also found, they are same, almost same, and this is equal to 1.8 Simon centimeters per mole. And why it is so? So one can consider that this, in this case, Na plus ion conductivity and conductivity of this will be the same value, and it will be cancelled out. So what can we consider? If we consider conductivity of NaBr is actually the sum of conductivity of Na plus ion and Br minus ion, conductivity of Br minus ion. Similarly, if the conductivity of NaCl is equal to conductivity of separated Na plus ion and separated Cl minus ion, then what will happen? The conductivity of Na plus ion and conductivity of Na plus ion will be same if they are independent or finite dilution, and those values will be cancelled out, and the difference is only because of the conductivity of Br minus and Cl minus here we see. In these cases, if you consider the different metals, their metal conductivity will also be cancelled out, and since anions are same in this part and this part, so we get their conductivity equal. In these cases, what we saw, the difference was only because of the cations. Anions, considering this difference is same in all the three cases. So on the basis of these observations, Kohlraasch proposed a law which we call the independent migration of ions. So he said at the infinite dilution, ions migrate independently. So they become independent of each other, or they independently migrate. And they, once at infinite dilution, they independently migrate. So you can just calculate, if you compute the conductance of one ion and also the another ion, so you can get the conductance of the entire electrolyte solution, or the conductance, molar conductance of electrolyte solution at infinite dilution, or the limiting molar conductance of that solution. And so Kohlraasch's law of independent migration of ions are defined in this way. So this is called what? The Kohlraasch law of independent migration of ions. And this is the limiting molar conductivity of an electrolyte can be represented as the sum of the individual contributions of the anion and cation of the electrolytes. The sum of individual contributions of the cation and anion you consider at the limiting concentration and finite dilution, and so there we can get the limiting molar conductivity of that electrolyte solution, and that is why we obtain this things equals. These conditions were followed. These conditions were not true if the Colora's law was not valid. So we cannot get that. So for example, if we consider the Colora's law example, limiting molar conductivity of Na plus ion, this is a lambda, a small lambda, and that this inverted V was capital lambda. So this is also lambda, this is also lambda. So the conductivity of Na plus ion, limiting conductivity of molar conductivity of Na plus ion, and lambda naught Cl minus is the limiting molar conductivity of chloride ions respectively. Then the limiting molar conductivity of sodium chloride one can obtain as, so lambda naught M NaCl is equal to lambda naught Na plus plus lambda naught Cl minus. So just add the limiting molar conductivity, which is independent of each other, and then you can get the limiting molar conductivity of the original electrolyte. And the electrolyte, depending on the nature of electrolyte that we see, that a case CaCl2, it gives 1 Ca2 plus and 2 Cl minus ions. So you can have different types of electrolytes. So an electrolyte on dissociation gives nu plus cations and nu minus anions. So in the case of NaCl, nu plus is what, 1, and nu minus is also 1, because 1 Na plus and 1 Cl minus ions are obtained after the dissociation. In the case of CaCl2, what we say, 1 cation and 2 anions we obtain. So the value of, in the case of CaCl2, nu plus will be 1 and nu minus will be 2. So if an electrolyte on dissociation gives nu plus cation and nu minus anions, then its limiting molar conductivity will be equal to lambda naught M for this cation. What will cation? Limiting molar conductivity of cation is lambda naught plus and anion is lambda naught minus, and these are the numbers on dissociating per formula unit. And so what we obtain, limiting molar conductivity is equal to molar conductivity of all the cations. So this is the nu plus is the number of cations. So each cation has this limiting molar conductivity. So the nu naught cation will have nu naught into lambda naught, and if the nu naught is the limiting molar conductivity of an anion, single anion, so nu is the lambda naught minus is limiting molar conductivity of a single anion. So a nu minus is what? It's the number of anions of this type. So it's a molar conductivity because of anion will be nu minus into lambda naught minus. Lambda naught minus, where lambda naught plus lambda naught minus, I have already explained, are limiting molar conductivities of cation and anions respectively. Nu plus, nu minus, again I am saying it's the number of cations and number of anions obtained after dissociation of each formula unit of an electrolyte or ionic electrolyte. And so this value of nu plus and nu minus, how we obtain, the example that we have seen for NaCl and CaCl2. Now let us look at, and this I will just add them. So means the conductivity of all the ions, limiting molar conductivity of all the cations and all the anions that are formed. If you just add, you will get the molar conductivity, limiting molar conductivity of that electrolyte. And if you get this value, limiting molar conductivity of different cations and anions are given, some cations and some anions, what we see, the limiting molar conductivity of H plus is highest. So 349.6, and this is because mostly this H plus ion moves very fast, and this moves very fast because of the Groth's mechanism. This H plus ions can make hydrogen bonds, and this hydrogen bond, it moves one water molecule to another water molecule. This is called hopping, or maybe another way one can have proton relay mechanism. By kind of proton relay, one proton will make hydrogen bond, H3O plus will make hydrogen bond with water molecule. That H plus will be shifted to that water molecule, and this water molecule will be transfer its own hydrogen, which was earlier, as H plus to another water molecule, and this way it moves very fast. This is called Groth's mechanism, or sometimes people also call it hopping. Although it may not be hopping, it may be the relay. And so if you look at the limiting molar conductivity of Na plus and K plus, they are of the same group. And if I am just without knowing this value, if someone asks you what will be the limiting molar conductivity, a trend in this, because they are of the same period, same group, and they have same charge on them. So what can you get based on the hydration, extent of hydration? If the hydration is more, the best on that you can also see the mobility will be less. Extent of hydration is more, mobility means that cation will become heavier, so its mobility will be less. So Na plus is smaller in size, its charge size ratio is more, so it will be more hydrated. Its hydration energy more than K plus hydration energy. So the mobility of Na plus in aqueous solution will be less than mobility of K plus, and so the limiting molar conductivity of Na plus would be lower than the limiting molar conductivity of K plus, and that we see here. However, conductivity does not only depend on the hydration, it also depends on the charge. And so if you increase the charge, the conductivity increases, but if the charge is same, and thus the extent of hydration will be the deciding factor. The extent of hydration that we see here, the magnesium is a smaller ion, so extent of hydration will be more, its mobility is less. Ca2 plus is larger ion, larger cation, so its hydration will be less, its mobility will be more, and that's why we see limiting molar conductivity of Ca plus 2 plus is more than Mg2 plus. In the case of anions, if we see Cl minus, Br minus in the same group, the Cl minus, obviously limiting molar conductivity, one would expect that the limiting molar conductivity of Br minus will be more than limiting molar conductivity of Cl minus. And why it is so? Because Cl minus is smaller in size than Br minus, and there is a possibility that Cl minus will be more hydrated and more hydrated so than Br minus. However, usually, although it is not in your syllabus, but we see in the case of anions, hydration doesn't get affected by that much amount, and that's why although we get certain trend, but we don't see much difference here, as we saw the difference in the case of cations. Here from 50.1 mono positive cation Na plus and K plus, that we saw the difference from 50.1 to 73.5, which the difference is 13.4. Here in this case, what we see difference is just 1.8. And so the sulfate ion, again we see the anion also, there is a charge is more, the conductivity, limiting molar conductivity is more in this case. And the OH minus is the smallest in all of them, and so its molar conductivity is more. And anyway, this is the hydroxyl ion, and this hydroxyl ion, OH minus ion, also has something with the kind of H plus ion mobility. Now let us look into the weak electrolyte. So weak electrolyte, the examples that we know, the acetic acid that we have seen, there are all the carboxylic acids are actually weak electrolytes. And also the amino acids are also weak electrolytes. Ammonium hydroxide, there are many other weak electrolytes. So weak electrolytes means they do not get 100% ionized, only partial ionization of weak electrolytes happens in aqueous solution. So weak electrolytes have lower degree of dissociation at higher concentration, and why it is lower, that we know, because the degree of dissociation of weak electrolyte depends on the square 1 divided by square root of concentration. It's proportional, so alpha is alpha proportional to 1 divided by square root of concentration of the weak electrolyte. So if the concentration is more, degree of dissociation will be less. And also we have also connected with the concentration, what will happen to concentration on increasing or decreasing dilution, with the example of acetic acid just now, today only I have explained. So for weak electrolyte, the change in lambda m, the molar conductivity with dilution, is due to increasing degree of dissociation, and consequently the number of ions in total volume of solution that contains 1 mole of electrolyte, that we have already seen. So at infinite dilution means what? The concentration, when concentration tends to 0. Infinite dilution, concentration tends to 0. Electrolyte dissociates completely, and completely means when alpha becomes equal to 1. Complete dissociation of electrolyte means extent of dissociation is 1, or the degree of dissociation is 1, means 1 mole of electrolyte you have taken, and all the entire molecule, all the molecules of that 1 mole of that electrolyte is dissociated into corresponding ions, then only alpha will become equal to 1. And why concentration tends to 0, we are saying, because if the any infinite volume of a liquid, if you add simply even one molecule or one ion, the concentration will not be actually equal to 0. It will be 10 to it will be near to concentration, might be near to 0, is near to 0, but it is not 0. Then that means the concentration tends to 0, means that infinite dilution. So therefore, lambda m, value of lambda m for weak electrolyte increases sharply on dilution. This is what we have seen on that graph, so of acetic acid. So what we saw that the value of this lambda m value increases very sharply, very steeply at particularly lower concentration. And what we also saw that this graph you cannot extrapolate to up to the 0 concentration, means the infinite dilution. So it is from this graph it is difficult to obtain lambda naught m value for weak electrolyte. So how will we obtain lambda m naught value for weak electrolyte? For a strong electrolyte, this is a straight line, and this straight line we can extrapolate it, and with that we can get intercept, and that will give us the value of lambda naught m from this equation. However, in the case of weak electrolyte, we cannot extrapolate it to this value. It will go to infinite distance, and it will not give us the lambda naught m value, the limiting value. So to do that, we use the Kohlraasch law, the information that we obtain from the Kohlraasch law, the Kohlraasch analysis. And so there, let us come back here. So the lambda m means molar conductivity for weak electrolytes increases sharply on dilution, and that we have seen in that graph, particularly near lower concentrations. However, lambda naught m cannot be obtained by extrapolation of lambda m to 0 concentration, there with the nature of graph that we have seen. Also, at infinite dilution, the conductivity, and this point I have explained as well. So at infinite dilution, the conductivity or the conductance of unit volume of solution is so low that it cannot be measured accurately by experiment. So weak electrolytes conductivity and finite dilution is so low that it cannot be measured actually accurately. Whatever the conductivity that you will measure, it may give the conductivity of the water molecule. So you cannot measure it accurately by any experimental method. And so because the changes is in the error bar of the instrument. So what do we do? How will we obtain the lambda naught m value for the weak electrolyte? So we use a certain trick, and that trick we obtain that concept from the Kohlraasch law that we are going to study. So lambda naught m for weak electrolytes is obtained using Kohlraasch law of independent migration of ions. So independent migration of ions, and in finite dilution, what we show, the extent of dissociation or degree of dissociation for weak electrolyte also becomes equal to 1, like a strong electrolyte. For a strong electrolyte, alpha was 1. And for weak electrolyte at infinite dilution, we also see alpha is equal to 1. Means weak electrolyte at infinite dilution also behave as a strong electrolyte. And why it behaves as a strong electrolyte? Because it completely dissociates into ions. And once what we see the lambda naught m for that electrolyte, we can also obtain if we know at infinite dilution individual limiting molar conductivity of the cations and anions that forms this electrolyte. And similar kind of cations and anions, common cations and anions, we also see in the case of strong electrolytes. And from the strong electrolyte, limiting molar conductivity of those ions we can calculate, we can obtain. And once we obtain limiting molar conductivity of those ions, cations and anions that forming this weak electrolyte, and by adding those values, we can actually from the Kohlraasch law, we can obtain the limiting molar conductivity of the weak electrolyte as well. I hope this point is very clear. Now let us see this thing. So at any concentration C, if alpha is degree of dissociation, then it can be approximated to the ratio of molar conductivity lambda m at concentration C to limiting molar conductivity lambda naught m. So limiting molar conductivity, what is lambda naught? The degree extent of dissociation is 1, means the number of moles, whatever the moles that you have taken, it becomes 1. And at the lambda m at a particular concentration C, lambda m, whatever lambda m that we obtain molar conductivity, it will correspond to the whatever cations and anions that are there at that concentration, free cations and anions that are there in that solution. And if we know the conductivity, then we can also find out the value of alpha, and that alpha will be equal to lambda m by lambda naught m, where the lambda naught m is the limiting molar conductivity of weak electrolyte, and lambda m is molar conductivity of weak electrolyte at concentration C. And I hope this formula is very clear. It's a very common sense problem, common sense thing. So for a weak electrolyte, we know that this formula in ionic equilibria, we have derived this. So for a weak electrolyte, particularly if consider acetic acid, dissociation constant of an acid, so Ka is equal to C alpha square divided by 1 minus alpha. And this formula we know. Now the value of alpha you can take from here, lambda m by lambda naught m. So you put value of alpha here, so it will become lambda naught by lambda m by lambda naught m whole to the square. So lambda naught m square will come into denominator, and lambda m square will be numerator. In the numerator here, C lambda square divided by lambda naught m square into 1 minus alpha. So 1 minus lambda m, value of alpha we put lambda m minus lambda naught m, and this will be equal to only the values in parenthesis, lambda naught m minus lambda m divided by lambda naught m, and this lambda naught m and this lambda naught m square, 1 lambda naught m will be cancelled out. So what we get, K is equal to C lambda m square divided by lambda naught m into lambda naught m minus lambda m. Either you remember this formula, or if you don't remember, you should know these two formulas. They are very important. From this formula, you can easily find out these things. So if the value of lambda m, we know lambda naught m, we can obtain using the help of the Coloras law for a weak electrolyte. Lambda m at any concentration C we can measure, and with that the value of alpha we can measure, degree of dissociation measure, and once we measure obtain the value of degree of dissociation, from that we can also obtain a dissociation constant of a weak acid. A dissociation constant of weak acid experimentally can be obtained by this way, this method. So applications of Coloras law that we are going to see. So using Coloras law of independent migration of ions, one can calculate lambda naught m value for any electrolyte from the lambda naught of individual ions. Lambda naught, this small lambda naught m is what? The limiting molar conductivity of individual ions, and this lambda naught m is the limiting molar conductivity of an electrolyte, capital lambda naught m. And that how that we have seen from this lambda naught value, this small lambda naught m value, the cations and anions that forms this electrolyte, we can obtain from the lambda naught m of the strong electrolytes. And from that, using those numbers, because that is going to be constant and finite dilution, because they move independently, and at infinite dilution, strong electrolyte and weak electrolyte, we do not see any difference in strong electrolyte and weak electrolyte, because a weak electrolyte also becomes a strong electrolyte at infinite dilution. So the dissociation constant of weak acid can also be determined from the values of lambda naught m and lambda m at a given concentration. And how will obtain the dissociation constant using this formula? Alpha dissociation constant lambda is equal to extent of dissociation is alpha is equal to lambda m by lambda naught m, and then dissociation constant of weak acid, this K, we can obtain if we know the value of alpha. We can put the value of alpha in this equation, and thus we can obtain dissociation constant of weak acid from the value of lambda naught m and lambda m. Let us see some numerical problems. How can we apply actually using Coloras law? How can we solve numerical problems? So how will we obtain this, whatever the things that I have said that we have just claimed? So calculate the lambda naught m for CaCl2 and MgSO4. The limiting molar conductivities of Ca2 plus Cl minus SO4, 2 minus R119, 76.3, 160.0 Simon centimeter square per mole respectively. So the limiting molar conductivity of all the ions, calcium 2 plus ion, dipositive calcium ion, chloride ions, sulfate ions are given here. And using Coloras law, what can we obtain? Lambda naught m, we know, is equal to what? Nu plus lambda naught m plus plus nu minus lambda naught m minus. This formula is very important. You should remember this formula. And so nu naught and nu minus for CaCl2 will be what? That we know CS for CaCl2 nu plus is 1, because only one cation is obtained after the dissociation and two anions, two Cl minus are obtained. So the nu plus is 1 for CaCl2 and nu minus is 2 for CaCl2. And for MgSO4, this is nu plus is 1 and nu minus is also 1, because cation is here Mg plus and anion is sulfate ion, Mg2 plus SO4 2 minus and Mg plus and SO4 minus. What we see per formula unit, one cation and one anion is obtained. So the value of nu plus and nu minus is 1 and 1 respectively. Now we can obtain, using this Kohlraasch law, the limiting molar conductivity of calcium chloride. So limiting molar conductivity of calcium chloride CaCl2 will be equal to limiting molar conductivity of calcium ions plus 2 into limiting molar conductivity of chloride ions, or the limiting molar conductivity of calcium ions plus limiting molar conductivity of 2 chloride ions. This means what? 2 chloride ions, because 2 chloride ions are obtained after dissociation of one formula unit. And so what we obtain, this lambda naught Ca2 plus is given here, this value 119 Simon centimeter square per mole, plus 2 into this value for the Cl minus ion is given, so that we obtain, and finally we obtain value for the lambda naught m for CaCl2 as 271.6 Simon centimeter square per mole. Now for the limiting molar conductivity of calcium sulfate CaSO4 we can also obtain, and this we will obtain as lambda naught value for the calcium ion plus lambda naught value for the sulfate ions, because one calcium and one sulfate ions are produced after the dissociation of each formula unit. So why formula unit I am saying not molecules? Because these are ionic molecules and they do not, there is no, they are not discrete molecules, they are just ions. So this is the formula unit that we call. So is each formula unit, and now the calcium 2 plus this value we get from here, and for the sulfate ion we also obtain this value 160, and we add up these values, and we can obtain limiting molar conductivity of calcium sulfate as 266 Simon centimeter square per mole. Now let us see this question. So the lambda naught m for NaCl, HCl and NaAC, this question is slightly twisted, and thus that we will also be able to solve this question. These questions are very easy, though some type of understanding is involved, and that understanding is nothing but the Kohlraasch law, and that independent ions. So ions move independently of each other at infinite dilution. At a finite dilution, the ions are influenced by each other, but in finite dilution, they do not influence, their movement is not dependent on each other. So, and why? Because they are surrounded by enough number of macromolecules, they are actually secluded, totally isolated from each other. So now the lambda naught, this question is lambda naught m, means the limiting molar conductivity for NaCl, the sodium chloride, HCl hydrochloric acid, and NaAC sodium acetate. NaAC means acetate, so sodium acetate are given 1 to 6.4, 4 to 5.9 and 91.0 Simon centimeter square per mole respectively. Here please note that this is the limiting molar conductivity of these electrolytes. Limiting molar conductivity of ions are not provided respectively, but what we know, the limiting molar conductivity of this electrolyte will be equal to the limiting molar conductivity of separated ions. So that we can obtain respectively. We have to calculate limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid, HAC, and HAC. How will we form? So we have to see what kind of ions will form acetic acid. Acetic acid is a weak acid, and for weak acid, as we saw there, that we cannot obtain using that graph the limiting molar conductivity at infinite, the molar conductivity of at infinite dilution for a weak acid, because that extrapolation doesn't work in the case of weak acids. So what can we use with the using Kohlraasch law? So that what in this acid NaCl is what? It is nothing but Na plus and Cl minus. HCl is H plus and Cl minus. So the limiting molar conductivity of NaCl will be equal to limiting molar conductivity of Na plus ion plus limiting molar conductivity of Cl minus ion. Limiting molar conductivity of HCl is what? Limiting molar conductivity of H plus ion and limiting molar conductivity of Cl minus ion. Limiting molar conductivity of sodium acetate will be equal to limiting molar conductivity of sodium ion plus limiting molar conductivity of acetate ion. And now what we see at infinite dilution, these ions are separated. So these ions are separated. All these ions, suppose you are adding everything together. So you are adding these two ions together, and now what you get, and from that you abstract this NaC, means adding this and this, HCl and NaC, and then from that you are removing NaCl. So 1 mole of this you are adding, 1 mole of this you are adding, and if you remove 1 mole of NaCl at infinite dilution, what will happen? 1 mole of HCl will contain 1 mole of H plus ion and 1 mole of Cl minus ion, and 1 mole of sodium acetate will it contains 1 mole of Na plus ion and 1 mole of acetate ions. And of sodium, and if you remove 1 mole of Na plus ion and 1 mole of Cl minus ions, means what? What are you removing? What are you taking out from that solution, that mixture? 1 mole of NaCl ion. So 1 mole of the limiting, if the molar conductivity will be there, if you add these two, the molar conductivity will be because of this ion, this ion, this ion, this ion, all these ions. If I just remove molar conductivity of Na plus ion and Cl minus ion, and that molar conductivity will be equal to the limiting molar conductivity of NaCl ion, that means that infinite dilution. So what will be left? The left over value will be only the limiting molar conductivity of H plus ion and acetate ion. And H plus ion and acetate ion, limiting molar conductivity and limiting molar conductivity of H plus ion and Ac minus ion or the acetate ion, it gives the limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid HAC. This is the logic that we use. So lambda naught M HAC is equal to lambda naught H plus lambda naught AC minus. This is what we know. And NaCl, this thing, similar thing we can write here. And what we see, HAC, acetic acid, is what we, at infinite dilution, not at any dilution, you cannot write this thing. At infinite dilution, I am just saying acetic acid is what? HCl plus NaC. NaC, this is NaC, and we can write here at infinite dilution, HAC, HCl plus NaC minus NaCl, and it means what? HCl is what? At infinite dilution, it is H plus and Cl minus ion. NaC, Na plus minus Na plus and Ac minus ions. NaCl is Na plus and Cl minus ions. What we obtain if you just change at infinite dilution these electrolytes in terms of ions, so it is H plus ion plus Cl minus ion plus this NaAC, Na plus ion plus Ac minus ions minus Na plus and Cl plus Cl minus ions. So Na plus ion, this ions will be cancelled out, Cl minus ions will also be cancelled out. So lambda naught HAC that we can obtain, lambda naught H, that what will be left over is H plus and Ac minus ions only. So H plus Ac minus ion, which is acetic acid. So H plus and Ac minus ions we can obtain by the limiting molar conductivity of HCl ion plus limiting molar conductivity of acetic sodium acetate minus limiting molar conductivity of sodium chloride. So lambda naught M AC or acetic acid will be what? H plus lambda naught H plus lambda naught Ac minus, that will be equal to lambda naught H plus lambda naught Cl minus plus lambda naught, for this is for sodium acetate, this is for HCl, minus limiting molar conductivity of NaCl, which is actually the sum of limiting molar conductivity of Na plus Cl minus ions. And so, and we can get limiting molar conductivity of HCl as limiting molar conductivity of HCl minus this acetate and this NS. So this is plus so many errors. This is plus And so this value is given. HCl, for HCl is 4 to 5.9. 4 to 5.9 for HCl is given correspondingly here. And for acetate is what? Sodium acetate is 91.0. So 91.0 we add, and minus limiting molar conductivity of NaCl, and for NaCl it is given 1 to 6.4 respectively. So 1 to 6.4, and this Simon centimeter square per mole is unit of all this molar conductivity. So finally we get, after solving this, 390.5 Simon centimeter square per mole as the limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid at infinite dilution. Now let us look into this question. The conductivity of 0.001028 mole per liter acetic acid is 4.95 into 10 to the power minus 5 Simon per centimeter. Calculate its dissociation constant if lambda naught m for acetic acid is 390.5 Simon centimeter square per mole. So what is given here is the conductivity of acetic acid, and conductivity of acetic acid, this is what CH3COOH at this concentration is given 4.95 into 10 to the power minus 5 Simon per centimeter, this value. And lambda naught m acetic acid value is also given. Limiting molar conductivity value for acetic acid is also given here. But what do we not know? We do not know limiting molar conductivity at, we do not know the molar conductivity at this concentration of acetic acid. And if you know the molar conductivity of acetic acid at this particular concentration, 0.001028 mole per liter, from that we can actually calculate degree of dissociation, and from the degree of dissociation we can obtain dissociation constant of acetic acid, the way that we have seen earlier the concept. So now this molar conductivity we can obtain. Molar conductivity formula that we know is at a concentration C, when the concentration is reported in mole per liter, and concentration you see here, it is given in mole per liter, and thus conductivity should be taken in Simon per centimeter, and conductivity is actually given in Simon per centimeter for acetic acid at this concentration. So lambda m value we can obtain as kappa into 1000, or 1000 times of kappa divided by m. So 1000, it has a unit that we know, centimeter cubic centimeter per liter, and kappa is Simon per centimeter, m molarity is mole per liter, and putting all this value of kappa is at a concentration, this concentration is given 4.95 into 10 to the power minus 5 Simon per centimeter into 1000. This is 1000, that it comes cc of cubic centimeter divided by liter per liter, and this concentration, the molar concentration is given 0.001028 mole per liter is given here. And thus we obtain what value we obtain. We can just solve these numbers. The per liter will be cancelled out. Cc, this is cubic centimeter, and this per centimeter, it will become centimeter square. So Simon centimeter square, and this will per mole, which will become per mole. And after solving these numbers, we get 48.15 Simon centimeter square per mole. Now what we know the molar conductivity of acetic acid at this concentration, 0.001028 mole per liter concentration, and we know the limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid as well. From that we can obtain the degree of dissociation for acetic acid at this concentration, and a degree of dissociation alpha will be equal to lambda m, means the molar conductivity at concentration, given concentration, divided by limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid, and thus this value lambda m we have obtained as this 48.15 Simon centimeter square per mole. Lambda naught m is 390.5 Simon centimeter square per mole. It is already given in this question, 390, this value we have taken, and after solving what we get, 0.1233 is value of alpha, or degree of dissociation. You multiply this by 100, it means what? Its degree of dissociation is more than 10% or more than 5%, is more than 12%. 0.125 into 33, if you multiply by 100 is 22 12.33%, and this why it is more than that 12.33%, because the concentration is very low. Anyway, that is one thing that we can make out. And now let us look at how one can calculate from alpha the dissociation constant of acetic acid. And this formula we know from ionic equilibrium. The K dissociation constant of weak and weak acid is C alpha squared divided by 1 minus alpha. Please remember this alpha you cannot ignore. Why you cannot ignore? Because this value is quite high. It is 12 point. The degree of dissociation is it's a 12 more than 12% dissociation of acetic acid has happened here. So this value you cannot ignore, as we have seen in the many cases in ionic equilibrium. We have ignored this value, and that we ignore this value when degree of dissociation is less than 5%, means if this value comes out to be less than 0.05, then we may ignore. Otherwise this value cannot be ignored. It is significant. So 0. Putting the value of C concentration, a value of alpha from here, and divided by 1 minus value of alpha, and solving this, what we get 1.78 into 10 to the power minus 5. And here C that we consider, you can also mole per liter you can consider concentration. Usually for constant we don't take these kind of things anyway, so because we consider activity. Anyway, now let us look at this question. I hope that that will be the last question, and I'll stop there. The molar conductivity of 0.025 mole per liter methanoic acid is 46.1 Simon centimeter square per mole. The concentration of methanoic acid is given. What is methanoic acid? It is HCOOH. Means in CH3COOH acetic acid, if you replace CH3 with H hydrogen, then whatever the acid you obtain is acetic acid. So acetic acid is HCOOH. It means H single bond C, double bond O, and then OH bonded to carbon through a single bond. So now what is calculate its degree of dissociation and dissociation constant. And what is given? Given is the lambda naught H plus ion is this, and lambda naught acetate ion is this. So the lambda naught H plus ion and lambda naught acetate ion means limiting value of acetate ion and H plus ion is not acetate, it's a formate ion, it's a formic acid. So it's a formate ion and H plus ion is given. So from there we can obtain the limiting molar conductivity of formic acid or methanoic acid. Formic acid is also called methanoic acid. The methanoic acid is IUPAC name and formic acid is a common name. And this ion is called formate ion, because formic acid from formic acid, formate ion. So lambda naught H plus is given 349.6 Simon centimeter square per mole, and lambda naught for formate ion is 54.6 Simon centimeter square per mole. So from Colrat's law, what we can obtain is lambda naught formic acid or the methanoic acid is equal to lambda naught for the acetate or formate ion plus lambda naught for H plus ion. And these values we can put from the given data, and thus we obtain what the limiting molar conductivity of formic acid is 404.2 Simon centimeter square per mole. And now the limit molar conductivity of acetic acid is given, and this is given 46.1 Simon centimeter square per mole at this concentration. So molar conductivity is given for methanoic acid this at this concentration. So the lambda n for formic acid or acetic acid is already given at 0.025 molar concentration. Mole per liter concentration is molar concentration. So lambda we can obtain a lambda as lambda m divided by lambda naught m, and lambda m is what 46.1 Simon centimeter square per mole, and lambda naught m we have obtained here 404.2 Simon centimeter square per mole. This will be equal to 0.1141, and this value you can also not ignore because it is again more than 11% dissociation. If you multiply this by 100, this is the extent of dissociation or the degree of dissociation, and if you multiply degree of dissociation you can get percentage dissociation. So value of K again for the formic acid will also be the same formula. We will apply C alpha square divided by 1 minus alpha. Alpha is extent or degree of dissociation, and thus the value of C, the concentration is given 0.025 mole per liter, and the activity we usually take, so the unit I am not taking, into alpha value of alpha, which is unitless, and minus this, solving the entire value, you obtain 6.67 into 10 to the power minus 4 as dissociation constant of formic acid at the given concentration, and that concentration is 0.025 molar or more per liter. At this concentration, degree of dissociation constant is this. And one thing you should remember, dissociation constant of this acid will be constant at any concentration. What will be happening is at this concentration, value of concentration, if that is more, the degree of dissociation will be less. And these values are changed so much, they are dependent on each other, and so that this entire value remains constant. For the whether for the acetic acid and the formic acid, what this value that we obtain is what it is a constant, is dissociation constant for an acid, and it is actually an equilibrium constant. And equilibrium constant at a given temperature will be constant. The value of alpha may depend on the concentration, but the value of this dissociation constant will not depend on the concentration. If I have said it some way other way, you can just correct it. Alpha will depend on concentration, but this Ka value of weak acids, whether it is acetic acid or formic acid, will not depend on the concentration. Value of alpha depends, and it depends in such a way that C alpha square divided by 1 minus alpha remains constant on changing the concentration. I hope that point is clear, and these things, the electrolytic cells and electrolysis, is the Faraday's two laws of Faraday that we will see. Those are also very important points, and lots of questions are asked in that based on that concept.